I hold in my hand a single tablet of paracetamol. It's roughly a centimeter in length, a millimeter or so in width, and it contains 500 milligrams of the active ingredient, paracetamol. It comes in packs of 12, 24, 30, and you'll typically find it on the top shelf of your kitchen cabinet or fridge. Now, paracetamol did not start its life out looking like this. In fact, it was initially born from experiments with coal tar. It was refined, tested, and packaged into what we know today to be our friendly neighborhood, paracetamol. Now, every time you take one of these tablets to take the edge off some pain or get on top of a fever, you may not know this, but you are performing an act of faith. Faith in the researchers who discovered it, the scientists who test it, and the doctors who prescribe it. Faith that somewhere behind the scientific jargon and specialist recommendation, there is truth. Now, whilst that faith will serve you just fine with a tablet like paracetamol, events of late, as we will come to find out, encourage us to ask a very important question. What if that faith, which allows us to take medication without second thought, has been misplaced, or worse, abused? My name's Dr. Albion Thaqi. I'm a GP trainee working in Kent. And when I became a doctor, I took an oath to integrity and honesty. And so let me start off by making a confession. I can't see about 50% of you in the room at the moment. You see, I've got something called astigmatism. My eyes are very slightly rotated on their axis, and so I find it difficult to focus on distant objects and individuals. But luckily for me, I have a pair of glasses. And when I put them on, I have clarity. I can see your faces. I can tell whether I've managed to grasp your attention. And importantly, for the purposes of this talk, I can be aware of any object in my immediate vicinity which would otherwise cause me to have an embarrassing fall in front of a large and respected audience like yourselves. Now, every time you, the patient, comes to see us, your doctor, we carry out a very similar exercise to the one you've just seen. You see, you come to us with a presenting complaint, a health concern that's been bothering you. It might be a headache that's not going away, a rash you can't quite explain, or a cough that's been annoying you and your colleagues at work in the office. And initially, when you walk into our room, our glasses are off. Instead, we're listening. We're listening carefully, we're asking questions purposefully, and just before we make a decision, our glasses come back on. But you see, these glasses have a very, very important name. They're called research. Doctors don't make decisions about your health based on what we think is best. We make decisions that the research tells us is best. In doing so, we can feel confident that we're working towards the best possible health outcome for you and your loved ones. Now, research is as old as medicine itself. Hippocrates, often called the father of medicine, noted and recorded patterns that he observed amongst patients that he was treating thousands of years ago. It's what today we would refer to as early research. However, for many years now, unbeknownst to us, your doctor, and to you, our patients, it appears that at times, the lenses in our sacred glasses have been so blindingly distorted, we may as well not be wearing them at all. And the reason? Research fraud. New medicines and treatments in medicine start off as nothing more than an idea what we call a hypothesis. They're tested initially in laboratories, and then on animals, and finally on humans. The results of these tests are written up and published in journals so that scientists and doctors around the world can implement them and scrutinize them. It's an important and laborious process, but it's designed to keep you safe. But in recent years, it feels as if something may have changed. Whereas before research served the purpose of broadening human understanding about our bodies in the betterment of the patients that we treat, today it feels sometimes like a competition. At times, career progression and seniority don't always depend on how carefully you publish, but rather how quickly you publish. In other words, it's not about quality, it's about quantity. Medical research in particular is a huge component of a global pharmaceutical industry worth billions. The right results today mean market advantages, patents, and huge personal financial reward. Now, to some extent, I'm sure we could all agree that if an individual makes a discovery that leads to better health outcomes for patients around the world, then yes, maybe they should be handsomely rewarded for their contribution. But the kind of issue that an incentive like that creates is so obvious, it's probably not even worth elaborating. Now, I'm completely aware that right now this sounds a little bit abstract. So let's look at some real examples. The man on the screen is Andrew Wakefield. He was a former British doctor. In 1998, he published a paper which suggested that there was a direct link between the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, the MMR vaccine, and the development of autism in children. He published the paper in a scientific journal, yes, but more importantly, it landed on your TV screens and newspapers. And the result was devastating. Vaccine uptake rates plummeted. In 1996, we had just over 50 cases of measles in the UK. But by 2008, this number had rocketed to over 400, and we recorded the first death from measles in the UK in 2006, back from 1992. But when the paper was further investigated, some deeply troubling issues began to emerge. For one, Wakefield had failed to get ethical approval for some of the things that he did during his research. There were procedures and tests carried out that would never have surpassed even the basic ethical scrutiny of the time or today. But what was even more shocking was that the research was found to have been directly funded by lawyers who were preparing a lawsuit against the MMR vaccine manufacturers. Even more shocking was that Wakefield himself had filed a patent for a rival measles vaccine at the same time that he was promoting the results of his paper. Now, yes, the paper was retracted and Wakefield lost his license to practice as a doctor in the UK, but the damage was done. Trust amongst our patients proved to be something very easy to break, but immensely more difficult to restore. And unfortunately, he is not the only notable example. This is Paolo Macchiarini. He was a world-renowned surgeon, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge in the field of regenerative surgery. He came up with a revolutionary new surgical technique where he would implant surgical and synthetic polymers into the airways of patients with various pathologies, removing the need for a donor and ultimately saving lives. But unfortunately, the result was exactly the opposite, because every single patient who had one of those synthetic polymers put into their airway between 2011 and 2013 died. The research that was used to justify the technique was found to be completely fraudulent. The synthetic tubes were nothing more than plastic. They collapsed in the airways of patients, causing devastating infections and ultimately death. Again, Macchiarini was charged for his offenses, the paper was retracted, but the damage was done. Cases like Wakefield and Macchiarini have encouraged the scientific community to make some meaningful progress in the way that we vet research and maintain its integrity. But to say that we are out of the woods is simply not true. Because in 2023, the total number of papers worldwide that were retracted exceeded 10,000. And those were only the ones that we were able to catch. Indeed, we are making progress, but we remain vulnerable. Doctors base every single decision that we make for your health and your loved ones on the research. The progress is welcome, but there is still more to do. So what now? Do I simply join the ranks of conspiracy theorists worldwide who spew out nonsense regarding health-related issues? Well, no, I do not. My aim today is not to instill fear or distrust, it's to create awareness. Because in medicine, a patient with awareness has something else immeasurably more powerful, and that's called autonomy. So the next time you're prescribed some medication by your doctor, take the name, plug it into an AI chatbot, ask it to tell you the most recent evidence on that medication, what it will do for you in a way that you can understand and comprehend. In doing so, you'll be taking the medication because your doctor prescribed it, yes, but also because you have carried out your own due diligence, exercising that powerful thing called patient autonomy. I have to say, public speaking is an incredibly anxiety-inducing activity. In fact, research suggests it can lead to a whole host of physiological symptoms. One of them I am experiencing at this very moment. I have a headache. But, fortunately, I also have this. A well-trusted, evidence-based, globally understood paracetamol tablet, which will get on top of my headache in no time. And I'm sure if I took it right now, I'd still be standing on my own 2 feet with enough time to say, thank you all for listening.